Alright, well, I realized that was actually a great place to cut because that was about 26 minutes for that first episode. This next episode is going to entail me wandering around the town for a little bit, and it'll end once I get to the Woodside Apartments. So, it should be a little bit shorter. It depends on how fast I can make it around. There's another health drink right here. Now, that radio static indicates when there's an enemy close by. You'll notice this the street has collapsed in on itself. That's a Silent Hill staple. When you can't go that way, the town has collapsed. Now, there's a reason I'm not killing this lying figure just yet. It's because I want to explain him a little bit. But I can't seem to get a good view of him. So I'm gonna run around here. Yep, there he is. So, first thing I want you to notice are there he is. I just don't want to get too close. Yeah, you see that spring attack? I'll just start off with a basic explanation of the enemies in this game. They're all a reflection of James's conscience. They're all a reflection of James's psyche. His thoughts, his desires, his guilt, his fears, every single thing, his memories. And so that acidic attack actually reflects two things, which is, one, Mary's sickness. She's getting sick, she's coughing up, she's vomiting, all this disgusting acidic, disease. And that's why it damages me. It's this weird disease, bile stuff. But also, second, it represents Mary's harsh words. Now, towards the end of Mary's days, she was very sick. She was very, very sick, and she was getting bitter. She became very, very ugly and deformed because of the disease. She didn't think anyone could love her. So she took it out on James a little bit. And you'll see that in a cutscene later in the game. But basically, the prime symbolism of this attack is it's Mary's harsh words. It's Mary's verbal abuse. It's a very sad thing. You'll notice that a lot of people think it's in a straitjacket. It's actually not supposed to be a straitjacket, really. What it is it's supposed to represent someone tightly bound in their bed, going through their death throes, kind of wobbling and shaking and stuff before they die. How Mary died of her illness. Also worth noting, prominent butt, very sexualized. It's the same with his feet. You'll hear that click-clacking. It looks kind of like red platform shoes, red heels. It's a very sexualized thing. This represents James's sexual frustration. During Mary's illness, they couldn't really have sex. They couldn't, do any of that stuff, and he feels guilty. He feels guilty that he feels kind of like a pig for wanting sex so much and needing it so much while his wife is dying and ill, and that's represented in this monster. And I'm going to leave this one alone because he kindly let me explain the lore. He kindly let me explain him, so I'll leave him alive. The stone, it says some stuff. Something's written on it. Most of it's been rubbed away. So, remains of, it's called Blood Swamp. And this document of all the ones in the games is impossible to tell what it's talking about. Mainly, people died in the swamp, so they called it Blood Swamp. That's about it. Just flavor text, whatever. Interesting, if you look in the game files, you can find all the text documents uncensored. Yeah. And there's a health drink coming up over here somewhere. Now, what you're meant to do in this portion of the game is just wander around. You're supposed to wander around the town for a while until you find your way. I know where to go, so I'll be heading there, because exploring, you mostly just find health drinks and handgun ammo. But All these lying figures wandering the streets. Not really worth fighting. There's a nice little restaurant from Silent Hill 1 coming up right here, Happy Burger. And there's a medkit over here. I'm gonna pick up. 1 second here. Sorry about that. I just had to take out my dog. So, I'm gonna show you on the map actually. You'll see up here that little squiggly line, which is where that collapsed road was. And James will add things to the map as he goes. And we're gonna wander down Saul Street here, because there's a nice little place coming up on the left. This is called the motorhome. So you're supposed to wander until you find this. When you enter the motorhome, this on the right, on James's right at least, is hyper spray. It's a damaging gas can. It's a new game plus item. I'm not going to use it. There's another save icon. We're not going to use it. But there's a memo on the sofa. I'll wait at bar Neely's. And so James will circle Neely's bar on the map. Now, interesting little tidbit. Neely's bar is most likely named after the publisher Neely of Neely's Publishing, I believe it's called. Neely's Pristic Publishing. It's something like that. Who published the old Lovecraftian book, The Yellow King. And most of the streets in this game are named after specific crime authors or, authors. But this bar is most likely named after that. And here on Neely's bar counter, we find another map. And it's full of markers that James will copy onto his own map. Martin Street, there's a question mark. And circle Woodside Apartments. That'll be our final destination in this episode. Copied it onto my own map. Now this is iconic. There was a hole here, it's gone now. This message in Neely's bar, no one knows what it means. No one knows what it means. It's really fascinating. There are quite a few different interpretations. I'm going to sit here and explain for just a minute. In Silent Hill 1, there's a antique shop where there's a hole, and in the other world there's a bar around the hole, and all sorts of things. Some people think that because it's the bar reference, maybe the hole is that hole from Silent Hill 1, and it's just a reference to that. My personal favorite explanation is that it's, you can kind of see right in between the A, right above James's head, right in between the A and the H, there's a little apostrophe there, I believe. I believe that by it saying there was a hole here, it's gone now, it's just flavor text trying to say there was a watering hole here, it's gone now, because watering hole is a common term for bar. But, like I said earlier, sexual frustration is a theme throughout the game, so it could be emblematic of, there was a hole here, it's gone now. Mary's illness, there was a hole, and, it's gone now because she was sick and they couldn't, make love. And also in Silent Hill 4, there's one of the main elements of the game is you crawl through holes all the time, and there are a lot of references to Walter Sullivan, who's one of the main characters in Silent Hill 4 in this game. So there's some thought that maybe it's a reference to that hole from Silent Hill 4, although that's 2 games ahead, but with all the references to Walter Sullivan in this game, not completely unheard of, especially because Silent Hill 3 and 4 were actually developed at the same time. So, hard to say. It could be any combination of these things, it's hard to say. At the end of the day, I think it's just flavor text. I think it's just flavor text. Also, one other interpretation is that it's completely literal. that there was literally a hole in the window, so they used the newspaper to cover it up. I don't know. I like the watering hole explanation. You can decide for yourself. But now we're gonna head up Martin Street. Behind figure. Excuse me. T's Italian restaurant. There's a nice little health drink here. Those weird little winding noises you hear are enemies called creepers, which we can't see yet, but they're just little bugs. And they're the only enemy in the game that doesn't really have anything to do with James. They're just said to be manifestations of the town's actual power. They're just little bugs. And now that little crawling lying figure, you hear how it scatters around and it crawls like an insect, like a pest, you know? The idea of it being a pest is very, very, very strongly hinted at, again, because it represents Mary, and her illness ended up being, regrettably, and much to James's guilt, a pest to him in his final days. I'm gonna beat him up, just so I can explain something. I'm just gonna kill him so that I can explain something without the radio static. Okay. I got the apartment gate key. So, this I want to explain. You might have gotten a good look there. If not, go back and pause. You can see that this is James's character model, same jacket, same shoes, same jeans, except the head. And the interesting thing about this is there's this continued debate in Silent Hill about whether the enemies are, are they morphed from humans? Are they actually humans and they just look like monsters to the protagonist? Because in Silent Hill 3 there's a character named Vincent, and the main character of the game is named Heather, and she's talking about,
you feel excited when you step on them and snuff out their lives.
Are you talking about the monsters?
Monsters? They look like monsters to you?
Oh no.
Don't worry. It's just a joke.
a lot of people think that's the first hint towards the fact that maybe they're people who turned into monsters, or maybe they're just people who look like monsters. I believe there are two hints early on in Silent Hill 2 that actually predate the Silent Hill 3 allusion to that possible fact, which is, first, this guy, he has the head of a lying figure. He has the same kind of zipper face, he has the slimy head, so the fact that he seems to be slowly turning into or partially formed as a lying figure, but is also a human body, maybe they're humans who turned into monsters. And I think that's the first allusion to that possible fact, and I'll show you the second very, very soon, just before we go to the apartments. What's coming up here? I'm gonna have to clobber a few lying figures up here. Okay, sorry about that. So this is what I was trying to talk about. This dead body, again, sort of a lying figurehead, and he has a journal. There's a memo. I'm going to write everything that I've learned so far. Maybe that will help you out somehow. If you're reading this, it probably means I'm already dead. Good observation. We should listen to this guy. He knows his stuff. So here's the note I was talking about that alludes to the fact maybe they're not monsters. Maybe they're just people who look like monsters. I saw those demons. They were there, I'm certain. But my friend says he didn't see anything. If that's true, does that mean that what I saw was an illusion? So there it is. Nobody ever cites this fact. Nobody ever talks about this on the wiki. It's not on the wiki anywhere. But, you know, I have it in my archive. Because I think it's pretty important. It's the first hint in the Silent Hill series. But whether that demon that ate human beings was real, or whether it was just some kind of hallucination that my mind dreamed up, one thing I know for sure is that I'm beyond all hope. Now, he says they eat human beings. Kind of a weird thing, because lion figures don't eat human beings. In the early concept art, they had a long tongue, which they would use to drink the blood of dead bodies, which is what that refers to. It seems that they're attracted to the light. That's why people who need light to see are their natural prey. They also react strongly to sound. If you want to go on living, you'd be better off just sitting in the dark and staying quiet, but even that probably won't save you. So this is the only actual where they flat out say it in the Silent Hill series, that if you turn off your flashlight, the monsters will not be able to see you, and if you walk, they'll avoid you. You can kind of sneak by. Everyone kind of talks about how you can probably do that, but there is some confirmation right here that you can do that. If you're going to try and fight them, the most important thing is to relax. This stuff is just normal. And then he has two more notes. Run away. And run away, run away, run away. So, pretty interesting stuff. Now, we're gonna head to the Woodside Apartments. I hear there's a medkit and some handgun ammo. Beautiful. Uh-oh. Flying figures everywhere. Okay, here's the gate. I used the apartment gate key. The text disappeared fast. But we're inside. We'll head in here. And welcome to the Woodside Apartments.